go. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about our proposed budget for folks to vote on May 18th?
Yes, my name is Carson Jacobs.
Carson Jacobs, an old friend. How are you?
Good, good. I got my soundings today.
Okay.
So I'm questioning why we're increasing the budget by $2 million plus when our revenues are going down. I want to know, what's the rationale behind increasing expenses when the revenue stream is going to be placed on the backs of the hardworking, tax-paying citizens of this community.
Yeah, good question. For those of you who don't know Carson has been a community member for a good long time and was on our Board of Education for 9 years, Carson, or 6?
6 years.
6 years. So I'll let Enrique start with this one. Just to give everyone an overview, how we start our budget process is we started as we call a rollover budget. We take the current budget, current expenses, programs, staffing, and we roll them over to the following year. And what we have to do is oftentimes that rollover budget increases because of whether salary increases or fixed cost increases, like health insurance premiums go up, or the district's contribution to the retirement system, or some other factors that the district is on the hook for. Then what we do is then we move from that number. So for example, if a rollover budget from year 1 to year 2 increases by, let's say, 4%, the conversation we have with the Board of Education and then with the community is, what should we be reducing to drive down the increases to be more in line with increases in revenue. So I'll let Enrique talk about some of our fixed cost increases that led to, I believe what Carson's suggesting is it's a 2.6 budget to budget increase. So Enrique, I'll let you fill us in a little bit.
Sure. So you can understand, even though you've been in the board for 5 or 6 years, we have contracts with the unions. And our union contract with the teachers, even though we haven't had a contract for years, we have to use the last contract that we had with them. And that contract increases our expenses by about $1.4 million. So just starting off the bat, there's a $1.4 million increase just to have the same number of teachers that we had last year. I think there was a decision that because of COVID, children need extra help. So we decided not to cut any teachers, because next year when they come back, there's going to be a need for extra help. That's number one. Health insurance, it's a contractual agreement with all the employees of the district. That's an increase of $400,000. So just there you have about $1.6 million out of an increase of $2.1 million. In a budget of $84,000, $500,000 in other union increases, I don't think is a lot. And there's nothing that the board can do but to let go people. And we don't want to let go people because we need them. Specifically, we need them for next year, after 2 years or year and a half that our children have been learning remote. They need to go back to school and they need to start learning the way they are. So that's why there's a $2.1 million budget increase.
Okay, I understand that, but I run the union business too, and we negotiate contracts, and we also get paid decreases. I can't see paying $1.4 million more in these economic times I mean, the teachers should be able. We should be able to hold the line.
We're holding the line. That's what I said. We've been without a contract for 3 years because we're trying to hold the line. But by holding the line, I don't know what your union contracts are, but my union contracts have steps and lanes. And even if we don't have a contract, I need to give them a step every year that they are here. And that brings it to $1.4 million.
Yeah, but you know what? The times are changing right now, and the times are changing in the education world. Listen, we all watch the news. You know, that people are not happy with the only people that were really working during COVID were teachers and public workers. Most of us are private workers, and all these taxes are coming on our back. So you know what? The public education, the government needs to start curtailing themselves so we don't have to keep paying into this. This is why I'm frustrated, is because it's like a runaway train. We're losing revenue and we're increasing expenses. It doesn't make sense. I've been in this community for 30 years now. This would be the first budget I vote no on because I don't think we're doing the best. When we had hard economic times, back when I first started on the board, we had to make cuts. You guys are not making cuts. Listen, I understand the whole fact about.
So you want the board to make cuts, hurt the children.
No.
Yes, because by making cuts, you're going to
Enrique, please. Enrique, you get very defensive all the time.
There's no please.
You get very defensive. Listen, we had to make that when Dan McCann was the superintendent. We had to make cuts, and it wasn't favorable because we had a lot of people in this community don't know that part of the TRA, as Joe said, we are bound to give the teachers a certain amount of return on their investment on their thing. So when back then we were starting $2 million in the hole. Right now we're starting 1.6, and that has nothing to do with the retirement. So this is getting out of control here. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
You don't understand. Okay, so back in the day when Dan McCann was there, when we had the economic downturn, okay, we had an economic downturn, and the teachers' retirement wasn't doing well. Before each budget, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were the guy there. We were $2 million or $1.5 million in the hole because we had to backfill the teachers' retirement. Okay, because that's part of our obligation through the tribal or whatever it is. Okay, so at that point, now what we're saying is we gotta because of contracts, people should just take a freeze. Don't even go up. We don't need to go up. These teachers should be happy that they work 165 days out of the year and they get paid very well. Our teachers get paid very well. If you go to See-Through New York, our teaching staff and administration gets paid very well. There's no reason why on the taxpayers' dollar we have to keep going up because of this. That's just my opinion, but I think a lot of people feel the same way I do. All right.
But a lot of people like you don't understand the fact that we have a contractual obligation with the teachers. I cannot suddenly decide, teachers, I'm not giving you a raise.
Listen, I deal with the Teamsters. I deal with the operating engineers. I deal with the laborers. I deal with unions all the time. But you know what? When in hard times, people have to understand that you have to make hard decisions. And you guys can't just it can't be an open paycheck. It can't be an open ticket for us to do it.
So let me.
I think it's enough. There's been more than 3 minutes next.
Let me.
No, Enrique, you don't run things like that.
Sarah, excuse me. Sarah, excuse me. Let me address some things Carson said to inform everybody, and then we'll go to Dana because she raised her hand next. So in the teacher's contract, because we've been talking a little bit about them over the last 10 minutes, there are two within our teachers union. Teachers are compensated in two different ways. One way that they're compensated is based on their seniority. So the older or the more senior teachers are, they are out of the schedule. All right. The schedule is for the first 18 years of a teacher's career with us. All right, so years 1 through 18, you have a guaranteed salary and you have a guaranteed raise within that salary schedule. So if we were to hire any of you right out of college, you could be 22 years old or 50 years old. Your first year with us and your next 17 years, so your first 18 years of employment with us, you will know your salary. All right, your salary increases every year anywhere between about 2.4% and 4%. Okay, those were negotiations that the district and the teachers union made decades ago. That is in the contract today. If you have been in our school district 19 years or more, you do not receive a guaranteed raise each year. You're considered off step or off schedule. All right. So the obligation the school district has to pay teacher salaries is for everyone who's within the schedule between years 1 and 18. Those raises are guaranteed, and they are guaranteed by law. All right. It's called the Triborough Amendment. We cannot unilaterally freeze their salaries. All right. As Enrique mentioned, and as Carson mentioned, times are tough. We've got to be more aggressive in terms of negotiations. All I can tell you, because I can't disclose negotiations information that's protected by law, and those are private conversations. What I can tell you is that the teacher's contract is expired. It's almost 2 years expired. Now, why is it 2 years expired? Because we don't have an agreement on what the financial package should be. So with or without a contract, everyone still has their benefits. All of their benefits roll over, but only certain teachers are getting raises. All right. And they're getting raises between 2.5% and 4%. And other teachers are not getting raises. So when we talk about fixed cost increases, that's a fixed cost because those salary increases and their salaries between year 1 and 18 are baked into the pie. All right. We have to fund those salaries every year. It's illegal for us not to. In terms of other contracts and other unions, we have been holding the line for the last number of years, even before I got here. So probably the last 12 years at trying to control salary increases in the range of 2%. Some union contracts are well under 2%. Sometimes union contracts are more than 2%, but that's in exchange for some other monetary benefits. For example, they may be paying more in health insurance. They may be paying more in health insurance and retirement, and the math works out to be about a net 2% increase. So, Carson has had a pretty good experience on the board. He worked with Enrique all 6 years. So I just wanted to fill everyone in on some of the language and lingo that we were using. Dana, let's pivot and go to you.
Okay, so got my soundings yesterday too. I also got Lakeland's. It's fun to get another district to make some comparisons. Ours is much prettier, Joe, if you want to know. 82% of our budget is made up of programs as well as salaries. So can we get more in terms of those line items of what that 82% is? What programs cost what amount? So if we're running, I'm going to throw it out here because you used the example more than once, AP French, what is that running us? So can we start dividing out our programs and we can see it at the high school level, the middle school level, and within our 3 elementaries? From a parent perspective, I think it'll help us gain a better understanding. I also think from future board members, they probably would want to weigh in on what programs are still effective, that we have a great return on investment for our students. And what we do, for Carson's point of view, need to make a hard line and draw in the sand that we should not be continuing these programs as they're no longer as beneficial as we need them to be, or we certainly can't continue to operate them because of the financial constraints. So I'd be curious more about those line items within the 82% that we talk about that come from our budget.
Yeah. So Enrique, do you want to share what's in the budget book and what's available that way?
I can give you program by program the cost of each program. And basically, the cost of each program will be the teacher, teaching assistants, teacher aides. The rest is really a fixed cost that goes to the whole district. But just to give you an example, if I go by building, BV, the total cost of salaries is $5.1 million. Franchi Lindsay is $6.2 million. Furnace Woods is $4.1 million. Well, actually 4.2. The middle school is $8.6 million. And the high school $11.7 million. That's just salary.
Okay.
Then for each teacher, there's three additional costs. Social Security, that it's 7.65% of their salaries. Teachers' retirement system, that next year is going to be 9.8%. And health insurance. And health insurance can be between $11,000 and $22,000, depending if they are single, employee plus one, or family. So there you have where 82% of our costs are. Then you know the small parts also include contractual expenditures that go for anything about instructional material, supplies, textbooks, workbooks, everything else. So that's what represents 82% of our budget.
Do we have it broken out? Just like is elementary just curriculum with salaries and the books and stuff like that? Is that how we look at it? Or is there anything more with a fine-tooth comb broken down like this?
Also, all this is by law, by the way, Dana. The law tells you so the state of New York can compare district with district. They tell you exactly what goes in each of these categories. In this category, we also have to include transportation, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Extra curriculum, that none of those are in these numbers. Transportation obviously is a district-wide number. Athletics, even though 90% if it is in the high school, we don't consider it to be part of these numbers. They are separate, but they are part of that curriculum and instruction. So that's what constitutes curriculum and instruction.
Yeah, and let me jump in, Dana, to answer your question about programs or how much does it cost to educate AP French. That's not anything we have yet because the high school, this is the season the high school's finalizing, well, not even finalizing, still developing their schedule. So what happens is that a couple things are combining: student interest, staff availability, and then opportunity to offer the classes in the schedule. So for example, sometimes we may not offer AP French because the only French teacher we have at the high school needs to teach more ninth graders, and that's a mandate more than AP French. For example, we have a lot of non-mandated programs at the high school. Well, we have a lot of non-mandated programs at the high school, period. Every AP class we offer, 24 AP classes. I shouldn't say that. I'm going to combine the two numbers. We have 40 classes at the high school that are either AP or for college credit. Mm-hmm. Those are not mandated. Those are elective opportunities for high school kids. They're rigorous courses. You do well, you'll get college credit, or at least you'll compete for college credit. So the cost analysis of those programs typically comes later in the summer once the schedule at the high school is set, and then we can run the financial model to say, okay, how much does it cost to educate students in our science research program? I'm going to make this up because I don't have the schedule in front of me, but we have 2.5 teachers dedicated to the science research program. Enrique will be able to tell us how much an average high school teacher is in terms of salary and benefits. So now we can give you a dollar amount for a program, divide that by the number of kids. Now you have a cost per pupil in that program. A year ago, we had a lot of conversations with folks in our community about why our cost per pupil is so high when you compare it to other districts. Well, I'll tell you, because we offer more programs than other districts do, whether it's 40 AP and college level classes, or whether it's our own in-house program at elementary, middle school, and high school for students with autism, or at the high school, we have a alternative program for students at the high school so they can experience high school classes in a smaller setting, more of a team approach like a middle school. We are able to put dollar signs to those, but we're not there yet because the schedule is not complete.
Okay. Cost per pupil might go down with the reorg of the elementaries. Would you disagree or agree or not?
Oh, yeah. I won't go there. Cost per pupil should go down given if every other variable remains the same, right? So yes, if we're estimating a $2 million reduction in payroll, because that's about what the Princeton plan would save, then $2 million spread out over 2,300 kids, but that's assuming that there are no increases anywhere else in the budget.
Okay.
But apples to apples, yes, that would be true.
And then the other piece of it, if more people like Carson and they do not want to vote for the budget, what is the contingency budget consisted of, and can we have not a generalization of what programs would be cut, an exact amount, like this is the order that we would need to proceed, knowing that in the summer you're going to do some analysis to say, okay, we may not need to run this AP French program, we're still going to have this teacher, but we don't need these extra resources or materials, so we're going to see some savings there. I know you'll capture some savings elsewhere. What's going to be taken out first if contingency is voted in, or the budget's voted down twice and we have to contingency.
Let me talk about process, because there is a middle step between the budget on May 18th and a contingent budget.
Right.
The school board does have an opportunity to put up an alternative budget. That alternative budget can be exactly the same, and this district had done that before. The budget failed in May. They put up, I think, and I'll let Enrique correct me, but I think they put up a very, very similar budget, and that also failed. But the exact same budget, hoping for more yes votes, and that didn't work out. So a lot of things could happen. The board could say, okay, we're going to try to reduce the budget by another $500,000 to try to get the tax increase from 4.5% to under 4%, or whatever they believe the strategy should be. And that would be, we're reducing one of three areas. We're reducing people, which are programs. We're reducing supplies, which are for kids, or equipment to run the organization. And I can tell you there is not $500,000 of reductions in two of those areas. So then let's fast forward to a contingent budget. When you operate in a contingent budget, basically the state essentially takes over your budget with more statewide control, not local control, because the community voted and basically said we're not agreeing to tax ourselves, and now the state controls where we can spend on what expenses we can spend, how much we can spend, but it also mandates that we start charging people for things that we otherwise haven't. And I'll let Enrique talk a little bit about some of the constraints of a contingent budget by law, not our decision, but by law.
So the contingent budget has several constraints. First of all, I don't know if you know, or if you pass any afternoon and you see children playing in our, in our fields that are not a curriculum or our own programs, that means that someone from the community asked us to, to use our fields. That won't happen. That's forbidden, basically. So that's one of the issues.
We couldn't charge, Enrique, or we could charge, say, like the community.
We could charge,
for
but
the
yes,
program at Blue Mountain.
exactly. We could charge, but usually that's these clubs, they don't have a budget. So they don't have a budget, so we won't be able to invite them and lend them our our fields. So that's number one. Number two, we cannot use any money for equipment. So let's say that this happened to me in another district before coming here. When I came in, we were in contingent budget. A sander broke, and it cost us twice as much to fix the sander than to buy a new one. So even if that happens, we cannot spend in equipment, in any type of equipment, including computers. So let's say that, we have to go back to remote learning and 2 kids break their computers. We cannot give them new computers because we cannot buy new computers. Those are the major ones. For example, a third one is that the administrative budget has to be no greater than last year, but for us it's already lower than last year, so that won't be a problem for us. And again, the big issue is that we need to cut $2.1 million. If we go to contingent, compared to the budget that we're presenting, we need to cut $2.1 million. We don't have, in materials and supplies, more in total for the whole district, more than $80,000. So you can imagine, again, the only place where we can make cuts are in people. We cannot cut custodians because the custodians also drive our buses. So I cut a custodian, I cannot bring children to school. So it goes down to two units, teachers and teacher aides. And like Carson said, in 2010, back then we had to cut a lot of positions. We cut about 30 teacher aides. And that's what we'll have to do. And believe me, teacher aides are very valuable. Teachers are very valuable. We cannot cut the superintendent. We cannot cut any of the assistant superintendents by law. But everything, absolutely everything that we will cut goes directly to programs because there's nothing else we can cut.
And so if those programs could just be listed out, Joe, in some way, because I know last year we talked about kindergarten, yet the state wants a mandated pre-K program, so it seems kind of.
Well, those are, what we talked about last year was we gave an example of what are non-mandated programs.
Right.
So non-mandated programs include kindergarten. As crazy as that sounds, kindergarten is not a mandated program. It includes your electives at your middle school and high school, includes all your athletic programs, includes band, chorus, orchestra, because band, chorus, and orchestra are not mandated. Students just have to have instruction in music, but it doesn't need to be through an instrument or through voice. Librarians at the elementary, partial librarians at the middle school and high school are not mandated. So, both districts in New York State usually do one or two things. They start with non-mandated programs and say, look, not our decision. We didn't choose to non-mandate you. And some other districts look at they look at things like class size. They look at things like extracurricular activities and and those sort of things. I think sort of connecting, Dana's question and what Carson said is this goes back to a 10-year trend we have in our community, in our school community. The 10-year trend in our school community is we are getting smaller. We are 14% smaller today than we were 10 years ago. And with that, we're becoming, we have more students in economic need and we're becoming more diverse. And what we know is that students in economic need and students who are diverse demand additional educational support. So while our population's getting smaller, a greater percentage of that population is demanding more resources. So we need to allocate resources differently. Furnace Woods has lost 18% of its, 38% of its enrollment in 10 years. Frank G, I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it's 11%. So part of the discussion around the Princeton plan and why that was a financial discussion is because that helps at the elementary level right size the district and helps us control for enrollment and staffing in a more efficient way than our current model. We didn't propose, but we shared with the community class sizes at the middle school. We have very, very aggressively low class sizes at the middle school. But as Enrique said earlier, because of COVID and because of all of the uneasiness this year, the board decided not to reduce 4 staff members at the middle school. So, that's sort of a window into the thinking, Dana. It's not, it's not very, I was going to say procedural, but we don't have a pecking order because there are a lot of variables, and what we do is we have dollar signs to those variables. Let me pivot over to Mariella. She put in 2 questions. She can't unmute, but asked about capital improvements. Are capital improvements included in the budget? So I'll let Enrique take this one.
Yes, thank you, Mariella. In every budget, we put some money for capital improvement. Not a lot because, again, it's it's been tough budget since I've been there in 2008, but every year we usually put about $100,000 for capital improvements. In addition, so we have about $1.9 million in a repair reserve fund that we can use if we need to repair any part of a facility. But I cannot buy new stuff. I can only repair. So if we have, a problem with a roof, that the roof is leaking, we can use it to repair the roof. But I cannot buy a new roof with that money. So it's not a lot of money, but every year, Anthony Merlini meets with all the principals and he makes the decision to see what is it that he can do with that $100,000 for capital improvements. And obviously every 4 years, we try to pass a capital project. Obviously, the last one was $18.5 million. Before that, there was a $6 million and a $4 million to be able to maintain all our facilities, to improve all our facilities. So those are the 2 sources that we have for maintenance of the facilities.
Thank you. I thought it would be a lot more, but that's not a lot. Thank you.
Believe me, we need a lot more, but unfortunately, you see people feel that the budget as it is high. it's very difficult, but yeah, it's only $100,000, and it's been like that for the last at least 10 years. We haven't increased that account code.
And Enrique, we always spend it every year, correct?
Oh,
Exhausted.
actually, what we do is we spend it, and again, like I say, Anthony, if Anthony were here, he would have been able to tell you where he's planning to spend the money because he knows where the major need is.
If you can do a follow-up, Enrique, that'd be awesome. I mean, just visiting Blue Mountain a couple of weekends ago for soccer, just seeing the infrastructure, it certainly seems, the outside, I haven't been inside in a while, but outside just seems like it's been poorly maintained and falling apart. And our own school signs, to see Blue Mountain be broken, FGL was broken for a long time. You know, there's some school pride associated with those facilities as well. It would be nice.
Dana, no question about it. So you know, by law also, every 5 years, we need to have a complete capital program. We need to hire architects that they will say what is it that we need and what the cost will be. The last one was about 4 or 5 years ago, and that's when we decided what to do for the capital project. We did $18.5 million. Their recommendation was $58 million. 58. So just imagine Dana going out with a bond of $58 million. Not possible. But I totally agree with you. We're trying very hard to make them look nice. Like you said, it's pride. We've been able to do it with the high school. I think the high school looks nice. We're trying to do it with Blue Mountain. And unfortunately, you were not able to go in because when you can, please go and see the new auditorium that looks fantastic. So at least that part that the students use and see, we're doing it. But I'm with you. I hope we would get some money to improve Blue Mountain. It's in real need, specifically the field and everything around it. I totally agree. Unfortunately, times are tough.
I mean, the resale value for our homes will always be stronger when we have a stronger district. And, there's certainly not a district that you look at, superficially as well as internally from its structure. So,
well, there's also a calculated risk when you spend taxpayer dollars through the general budget on capital improvements, because taxpayers are paying 100% of that compared to a bond. When you do a bond, the incentive is the state kicks in or reimburses you, and our reimbursement ranges anywhere between 11% and as high as 30%. So part of the calculation in waiting for a bond, like an $18.5 million project, or as Enrique said, a $58 million project, is 30% of that the state will kick in. But there's a risk. The risk is the public has to approve it, and the public has to approve a tax on itself. Even 30% of $58 million is still, quite a bit of money out of our pocket. And that document is public, and it still might even be online. I'll look here shortly, but the building condition survey talked about a lot of things that were about efficiency, about functionality, certainly about the facade and how schools look, and aesthetics. We decided a $18.5 million project because at the time the community was demanding greater infrastructure in terms of safety and security. The community was demanding upgrades to our performance spaces at the middle school and high school. The track and field at at our high school hadn't been upgraded since like 1984 and was becoming a safety hazard. So every 5 years we do this building condition survey, and it's a complete objective look at our facilities, paid for, or paid for by us, but a third party. And then that's usually when we have a conversation with our community to determine, do we want to do this or not? So, Anthony Merlini, if he were here, he would say, fixing the ventilation and the heat exchangers and some other things inside the school is more important and is money better spent than changing the facade outside the main office at Furnace Woods. And he would be right. Now, strangers driving past the school would say, gee, that school doesn't look so pretty, but we also had a failed bond. What year was that, Enrique? 2011. 2011. It was a $30+ million bond.
No, 24.
Or 24 that would have addressed some of those things, but not all of them. And it was soundly defeated. It was defeated at, I think, at least
2-1.
Yeah, 2-1 margin. So let's go around the horn here and see if other people have questions before we go back to others.
She had one more question in the chat too, Joe. I didn't know what to do for her.
Oh, she did. All right. Enrollment is down 18%. Why can't we close an elementary school in 3 grades each? Good question, Mariella. In fact, that was discussed and that was evaluated back in 2018 and 19. That model is in our cost analysis. It's on our cost analysis Princeton Plan webpage. It's an 84-page report that was completed by outside consultants that do this work for a living. The short answer is we wouldn't have enough room in the 2 existing elementary schools without moving 5th graders to the middle school and some other considerations, and that wasn't an interest of the board and even of the community at that time. The other thing is, once you close the school, you're making a pretty firm commitment. You're committing that your enrollment is going to stay decreased, and you're committing for the most part that you're not going to need that school at a later date. And we've had a couple districts not too far from us that closed the school and regret it. And I'd even say our school district has regretted closing the McKinley School, which is off of Welcher Avenue in Peekskill, because the district had some growing pains after they closed that school a few decades ago. So the math and the calculations and also the savings are all articulated on that cost analysis that's on our webpage. Sarah, you had a question. Oh, go ahead.
Joe, also, so Mariella, the state will not give us any state aid if we need to reopen it. So suddenly we need to refurbish it, we need to redo everything, and we don't get state aid at all because we got the state aid back in 1960 when we opened it. So the cost against the savings would have been too much in the potential near future. So the board decided better to stay with 3 elementary schools.
Sarah, you had a question.
So my question is probably the dumbest question you've ever heard. However, I haven't heard it asked. So I need to ask. It's nothing personal against anyone. So we're talking about all these cuts, teachers' aides, not being able to repair playgrounds, possibly not being able to update ventilations. Have we ever thought about cutting anything at the not the administrative, but at the administration level? Have we ever thought of maybe not having a raise every couple of years? Have we thought about maybe we don't need all the administrators that we have? I don't know the answer. I'm sure there's a very, very, very plausible explanation for all this, but teachers not getting raises, but administrators getting raises, I'm not sure how people feel about that. I'm sure there's wait, I'm not done. I'm sure there's, you guys all have contracts as well. And I'm sure just educate me on that so that I feel better about
Sure.
what's going on here in terms of that.
Let me start by saying that teachers have raises, and the raises that teachers have, for those that they have, are between 2.5 and 3.2%. So year over year, so you can understand a little bit, the teachers union, the raise from last year to this year was 2.75%. The problem is that the half of the teachers, not half, but almost half of the teachers are in no steps, have been in the district for more than 18 years. And
Understood.
and those teachers do not get it. We've been telling the union, and again, this is general that I can say, but that's all we'll be able to tell you about our negotiations, is we've been telling the union, we're willing to give you 2%. How you divide your 2%, it's up to you. You know, if this year the total was $50 million that we pay you in salaries, well, we're willing to pay you 51. How you guys divide that 1 million extra money, it's up to you. And their answer has been no, no, no.
No, Enrique, I understand that. And that's, you know, the negotiations that the district is having with the union. So I understand, and I'm sure a lot of that is confidential. And, you know, listen, there's three sides to every story, you know. There you have the district side, you have the teacher side, and then you have the third side, right? Which is probably really what's going on, but nobody knows. But that's just life and the way things work. So I'm not necessarily trying to point blame. So you're explaining to me, and I do appreciate why the teachers don't have a contract. And that's I sort of assume that. So that makes sense to me. But we're talking about, with the Princeton plan, we're cutting 12 teachers. We're talking about, if the budget doesn't pass, we're going to have this contingent budget, and we're going to have to cut aides, and we're not going to be able to repair school grounds, and we're not going to be able to deal with ventilation. My question to you is, hang on one second. Why aren't we look at the administration salaries? Are those protected? Are there bans on there? Because we have no qualms about you know, cutting 12 teachers, or, you know, if the budget doesn't pass, telling people we're not going to have aides, or, you know, we're going to put the Princeton plan in place sooner than, you know, we hope to. But I don't understand. I mean, listen, I work at a law firm, right? So the equity partners, when the law firm doesn't do well, guess what? The equity partners, they don't get a piece of the profits. That's kind of the way. You guys are a corporation, which, Enrique, I know you're a financier, so financier, however you say that. So you understand, when a business isn't doing well, people don't get increases. And it starts at the top.
I totally agree with you. But again, this is not really a corporation, Sarah, because if this were a corporation, I don't think a corporation of $100 million pays his CEO $230,000. I bet you any
Enrique,
amount that's not the case.
Don't, you can't go there. I mean,
no, you are going there. How your equity partners are, when it's tough times, they make less money, but when it's good times, they make more money.
Yes.
Sarah, this is a market like your law firm. If they don't pay you well, you can go interview somewhere else and move. So this is a market economy, and this is part of the market. We have a clearinghouse where we looked at how much every superintendent, every business official, every teacher, how much they make. So I know how much all the people around me make. And if you tell me, okay, Enrique, now you need, that's not the case. Now you need to
But Enrique, around us, they haven't lost Indian Point and a huge amount of revenue. So we're in a little bit of a different, forget about the market right now and forget about the economic times. We just lost a huge source of our revenue. And I think we're in a little bit of a different position. I'm just asking, and it's not specifically targeted at Joe by any means. I'm asking why we haven't thought about cutting the administration salaries or maybe not giving increases if we're suffering right now.
For two reasons. Reason number one, it's also contractual.
Okay, well, that's a good reason.
So that's number one.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
The only contract that's public, as far as I can see, is Joe's. The others, I can't. Are they all public?
All
subject to FOIA.
Absolutely all.
Okay. Oh, subject to a FOIA. Okay, fine. Fair enough.
No, not even subject to a FOIA. You can go to Salary New York and you put Enrique Catalan and you'll know exactly.
Okay, fine. So they're subject to contracts. That's an acceptable reason. Listen, we're not going to break contracts and be subject to lawsuits. But
So,
Joe was going to say something.
Yeah, I can't let you get away, and I don't think you're saying it on purpose, but this budget does not negatively impact playground safety or ventilation. You said that twice.
I was using an example because
but those are two really
okay.
important examples that if parents don't hear me correct that, then that's
I'm sorry.
that's the
Playground
talking point on
beautification.
Facebook. Oh, well, playgrounds we have very nice and very new playgrounds. I'll talk about the administration. So just like you have class size caps, and we don't want to exceed class size caps and those sort of things, too many kids per teacher. New York State also has basically supervision and evaluation caps for principals, assistant principals, and those people as well. When New York State when the governor negotiated with the Senate and Assembly what teacher evaluation will look like, that created basically the equivalent of student to teacher ratio, teacher to administrator ratio in terms of evaluating and supervising all certified staff, whether it's teachers or teacher aides and monitors or speech teachers, OTPT, you name it. So there's a mandate there in terms of the supervision and evaluation system, and also the safety of kids. So, one example, moving to the Princeton plan, I know you may not want to hear this, but moving to the Princeton plan, we're going to have 3 elementary schools all around 300 kids. That's not the case today, and that's not going to be the case in September. In September, we're going to have an elementary school of close to 400 and an elementary school of 202. So in terms of, and we're not going to hire one more administrator, but we will be able to right size the organization in terms of fewer teachers without increasing class sizes. It's a math equation. It's nothing more than that. And the same goes with, administration. We have to have a supervisor of buildings and grounds and transportation people and those sort of folks. Now, if our trends keep coming or if our trends continue, I don't know, do we need 2 assistant principals at the high school? We don't know. But as long as there are still 100 teachers have to be supervised by 3 administrators, that's 33 direct reports that you're evaluating at least twice a year, in addition to all of the other, things that can happen in the school. So, I
understand that, Joe.
Yeah, it may not be as clear as teacher A has 24 kids in a class and teacher B has 17, but there's more nuance there. The other piece is, in terms of our administration, I think we have, if we add everybody up who's a certified New York State administrator, I think it's 18 to 20. 18 to 20 salaries with a 2% increase. Will it save some money? It may. It also will create some pretty significant turnover. We're very lucky that in terms of our leadership, we haven't had significant turnover in at least 3+ years. If you look at, Enrique's been here more than a dozen. I've been here almost 8 years. All of our building principals have been at least 6. And there's something to be said for consistency as well. So is a 2% raise a backbreaker? That's been, that's sort of been the position of the board, to keep salary raises at or oftentimes below cost of living adjustments. And I get it. We're a different, we're a different anomaly in terms of our revenue, but it's hard to say, oh my goodness, the sky is falling, and then I'll talk about the elephant in the room, or continue to talk about the Princeton plan, to deny the very overt and obvious savings of making those sort of decisions, or potential savings if we have to reduce staff or programs in other schools. Another analysis or another piece to this puzzle is going to be our negotiation with Holtec. I know there's a lot of concerns around safety and those sort of things, and this is not the forum for that. But we have an opportunity, and Holtec has an opportunity, to contribute to our school district more than what they are. And we want to seize that opportunity, and we want to make sure
Yes,
that
we do. Yes, that's
dollar,
for sure.
yeah,
But
every dollar we get from Holtec is a dollar we all are not spending more in taxes. And so, just one more example.
We don't want to prevent that.
Because I want to be careful we're not negotiating in public. You're right. There are probably three sides to every story. I can tell you that when we began negotiations with the teachers union, it was well known that Indian Point was leaving. In fact, I believe that their reductions in pilot payments were already happening. If you look back at the last, I would say 8 contracts, Enrique, 8 union contracts that we negotiated, all but 2 of them have been done on time. All right. Now, why are contracts done on time? Because you have a symbiotic relationship and an agreement to the financial situation. All right. 2 other pieces of data I'll share. They're old, but I don't think they're significantly different. At last check, we had around 12% of our teachers live in our school district, and only about 35% of our teachers live in Westchester County. So that's different than other parts of the state where your taxpayers, your staff, right? So when you're having conversations about tax increases and having to pay the bills, you usually in upstate or Western New York, you have a greater percentage of your staff that are taxpayers, so they're contributing to the system. So it funds itself. It's a little bit different in Westchester because we have, and not just us, but other parts of the county where you have so many staff that don't even live in the county. Makes it a little harder sell, to be honest. Let's go to Carrie. Carrie, do you have any questions or comments, or are you just listening? And that's okay if you're just listening. And Charlotte, same to you. We want to make sure everyone at least can get one question in. If you don't have a question, that's okay. This isn't a pop quiz.
Hi, thank you. Just making dinner and getting homework done while listening. But thank you for everyone for your questions and everything. Just trying to get a handle on what's going on.
All right. What's for dinner, most importantly?
Chelsea just is having eggs because she's difficult. So.
Okay. All right, Charlotte, if you want to ask anything or contribute, just come off mic and you can interrupt me. I'll go over to, Dana asked, are there salary bands for administration positions? Not like the teacher's contract, no. They're not, no. Different unions have different salary schedules, but the administrators do not. They have their agreement is an annual each year for a fixed number of years. And that's important. Why that's important is because the district then knows what the outlay is. We know that we have some guaranteed expenses coming and can make some revenue adjustments for that.
Thanks, Joe. I was curious because you talked about if teachers are outside those 18 years, they could be, they may not see salary increases. So I was just curious if that, was same with administration. So thank you.
So we tried to keep these to 45 minutes, but
it was a bigger group.
We had a bigger group. We had a lot of discussion. We have we have someone joining us up there with Mariella. So hello, good evening. Oh, so we have what do we have? Three more budget forums. If you can't sleep at night and think of a burning question, we will be back here. It looks like let me list these off. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, Thursday at 6 p.m. and then Monday at 11 a.m. So join us if you can. If you can't join us, feel free to email Enrique or myself any questions. We also have the Just Ask button on our website. So if you go to our homepage and click on Just Ask, you can direct a question based on a topic. And one of the topics is, I believe, budget and finance. So that question will be forwarded to myself or Enrique. We'll be able to get back to you as soon as we can. We can't tell you how to vote on May 18th. We can just encourage people to be informed and vote. It is an in-person vote and election this year, unlike last year. However, the governor has approved basically a no questions asked format to receive an absentee ballot. In the past, there were some criteria that had to be met to qualify for an absentee ballot. There are no criteria this year, so if you don't want to come in and vote, make sure you call my office at 257-511. Talk to Carmen, and she can get you an absentee ballot.
Quick question. The results of the budget are the next day or the night of?
The night of. So typically what happens is we collect all of the data from the machines, we add that up, and then we add in absentee ballots. And then depending on the enormity of absentee ballots, because those get counted last, and that's just the most labor intensive, probably this year I'd say by 9:30 or 10 o'clock. So they'll report them, the results to me, and then we'll announce them, and then we'll put it on our website and social media and send it to the newspapers. So we'll know that night. And then by law, the board has to have a meeting the next day to affirm the results. All right, that's what makes it official. So we report the unofficial results that evening so everyone can either take a sigh of relief or celebrate or whatever. And then the following day, very, very quickly, the board will meet briefly to certify the results.
I have two questions, Joe. Who's doing the counting? Is it like someone, is it an independent organization?
Yeah, through the Board of Elections. Yep.
Okay.
The election is staffed through the Board of Elections.
Okay. The second one I had was around the library. I know that I have a library bill attached to my town bill, and then I have a library bill attached to our school bill. Why do we have two? And this may be a long answer, but I'm just curious. Why is there two components of our taxes dedicated to our lot? Is it Westchester County that's on our tax bill for the town compared to this one being specific for our own Hen Hud library?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if part of our property tax. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if part of our town tax goes to fund the Westchester County system and part of our school tax funds the free library. I don't know, but we can have someone from the library get back to you.
Great. I just noticed it the past couple of years, and then I know we had a meeting. They were at the Board of Ed meeting maybe a month ago, where they did their presentation, which was lovely. And this is just, I'm trying to use our library more often because we're paying for it. So
Yeah.
gotta get out there and rent out.
Now the portion of the library that you pay, you have to pay it at the same time as the school district. So if you look at your tax bill, it's going to say Henry Hudson, the tax rate, and then it will say the free library and the tax rate.
Yeah, but there's
the other
also
one, to
on
tell
our
you the
tax.
truth, I don't know. I don't know anything about the other one.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just curious of what those two did, of how they funded differently. So yeah, if we can if that's all around curriculum and that's what we're funding, is their programs that they run and the resources and procuring of resources, just be curious on that front. Thank you. And will we know that BOE election results too at the end of the day?
Yes.
Should.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Well, join us tomorrow morning, Thursday night, or Monday morning, or shoot us an email, or go to Just Ask and go to Budget and Finance, and we'll try to get back to you quickly. Other than that, thanks for joining us.
Thank you
Barry,
both.
hope your daughter enjoys her eggs and whatever else everyone's eating tonight. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Joe. Thanks, Enrique. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you.